Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of GFC's Got Talent. My name is Qianxu, and I'll be sharing with you my passion for baking as well as a recipe I frequently use. So I initially developed interest for baking after being influenced by my mom's love for it, but I really stuck with it because the different techniques I was able to learn, and obviously just the delicious results were too amazing. Today I'll be teaching you how to make, in my experience, the softest and most tasty bread recipe. Our family actually eats this pretty much every morning. So let's begin. Here's a list of cooking utensils you will need. A large mixing bowl, a small pot, a pastry mat or board, a dough cutter, something to mix with, a kitchen scale, and of course, a baking tray. Lastly, I highly recommend a stand mixer. It just makes everything so much easier. These are all the ingredients. Feel free to screenshot this for future reference. We will first make the starter, so you're just going to want to combine the two ingredients in a small pot. After that, turn your stove to medium heat and start stirring the mixture together. We're using the Utane method, which is a Japanese technique that uses heat to bring out the gelatinization of starch and flour. Make sure you get rid of the clots and keep stirring. Take it away from the heat source when it reaches around 65 degrees Celsius. Your mixture should be pretty thick at this point. Leave it aside to cool. Okay, now we're moving on to the main dough part. You're going to want to combine everything but butter on the ingredient list for it in your mixing bowl. Before adding in the starter, make sure to check that it's below 60 degrees because anything above that can actually kill the yeast. So yeah, after that, just pour it in. Now it's time to start mixing. I'm doing this with a stand mixer to make it less time consuming, but you can do this by hand if you don't have access to a mixer. After a while of mixing, when your dough is no longer sticking to the size of the bowl, that's when you can add in the butter in small pieces. After adding butter, you can resume with mixing until the dough has become pretty much completely smooth. And a way to test its readiness is by doing what I'm doing here. So if you can stretch it out to this thin without it breaking, it's good for sure. Here's where the waiting game begins. You're going to want to leave it somewhere relatively warm and moist for a few hours or until it has risen to 2 to 3 times its original size.
One eternity later.
And there it is. With this, you want to take it out and squeeze out any air bubbles. Now, all there is left to do is to cut the dough into small pieces. I usually do around 45 grams each, but this is really up to your personal preferences. With each piece, fold it inwards until you get a smooth and spherical shape. Since our dough is quite sticky, this part can take some practice. Here's my full tray. After this, you want to leave it to proof for a second time. Again, I'm just using my oven.
2 hours later.
When it has risen to 2 times its original size like this, we're ready to bake. I bake mine at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for around 30 minutes. And that's it! The surface of your bread should be golden brown. In order to prevent the loss of moisture, I typically like to wrap my bread in plastic wrap. This will stay fresh for a few days. That's all for today. If you follow this tutorial, we would greatly appreciate if you could send us a picture of your final product to GFC on Instagram or by email. See you in our next video.